All right. Happy Thursday. Nice elevator music there. It's very relaxing coming in. I'm all like jazzed and all this is good. All right.
Just about took a nap on the intro video there with that music.
I know. It's so relaxing.
It's very nice.
Cool. Welcome, everybody, to another Evolve Lab Live. Today, we're going to be talking about Revit 2023. I already see some familiar faces that are in the chat. Hey, Justin, good to see you, bud. All those that are listening, would be great to hear where you guys are calling or listening from, whatever is appropriate for a live stream. We have a lot to get into. There's going to be, all four of us are going to be talking about different features in Revit. And today is going to be basically, we're taking a different take on it. We're doing like this unboxing review. So we've been kind of getting into Revit a bit 2023 this week and trying to get our heads around like all the features and our thoughts on it. And we're going to be looking at some different use cases for those. And so to kick things off, because we have a lot to show, we're going to jump right into it. And as you guys have comments or questions, we want to see a lot of activity in the chat window, and we'll try to get to your guys' comments and questions as we can. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel. Daniel, if you want to initiate your share screen, I will give you permissions on that. And I think you're going to be talking about the browser organization. We had some mixed reviews internally at Evolve Lab, whether this is a good thing. I think there's some great things. But yeah, we want to know your guys' opinions. So can you share your screen, Daniel?
Sounds great. Yeah, let me see if I can figure that out.
All right.
But shout out to OKC. I have some good friends there, and there's actually a few cool buildings I like in Oklahoma.
That's good.
Saw that. Okay, can you see my screen?
We see your screen. Your audio's a little quiet, just heads up. I don't know if it's your bin box taking off, elevating there with the fan or not, but
that does happen.
Yeah.
I'll blame that on trying to run 2 Revits at once.
Okay. All right.
That'll do it.
All right, we'll roll with it though. Let's see if you get a chance to check out your audio. Just make sure you're using your right microphone. But we'll roll with it anyways and see what you got going on.
Yeah, I'll take a look. Give me a sec.
And while we're doing that, while Daniel's looking at his audio, that sounds way better. Thanks, Dan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So also would like to know if anyone's downloaded or got into Revit 2023 yet. It just got released, so we'd like to know who's downloaded it and started to use it. But floor is yours, Daniel. Go ahead, sir.
All right, I'll try to go.
I don't think I could hear him.
I hear him.
I can hear you.
Oh. Okay, only I can't hear you then.
Okay. Try to go not too slow. As Ben mentioned, we kind of like unboxing all just dove into the features at once and picked out a few that we thought were cool. So I'm going to go dive into a few that I like. And the first one of the most obvious ones, is the sheet view on sheet icon thing. So right now I have 22 on the left and 23 on the right. And you'll see if I open one of these lists, I have a incorrect browser organization there. Anyway, you get a little blue light, blue square, blue icon, blue checkbox, but it's not actually a checkbox. It's just an image to tell you if a view is already placed on a sheet. So in the old Revit on the left, 2022, you could sort of make a specific type of browser organization, which I used to do at a lot of different firms, and you could filter only the views that have no sheet. Yeah, just like that. Did I do it right? Not on sheet. And you get sort of a similar list up here. And if I were to drag one of these onto a sheet, let's say this sheet, put a site plan on there, it might disappear. Oh, maybe I did something wrong. Anyway, in the new Revit, you don't have to do this anymore, but you still can. You get these nice little icons. So here, if I was to open up one of these sheets, first floor, okay, and put the new garage on here, in case we want to squeeze that in, it lights up. And I could throw the roof framing too. So that was kind of handy. We were talking internally. We're not the biggest fans of the exact graphics used to do it. I don't know what anybody else thinks who has played with this, but it was kind of neat.
I think it's a nice feature. My comment is that it feels like I want to checkbox that thing. Like it feels like an instance parameter where you checkbox or
Yeah,
uncheck it like a
same.
yes, no. That's what
It
it
looks
looks
like a
Right.
to-do list at this point. Like, I'm finished with this view. I want to check it off.
That's right.
We had the comment internally that, maybe it could be bold, but then that's already used by which view you have open. So I'm not sure what else they would have done, but it does look like a checkbox.
Italicized. Yeah. Anyway.
Sweet.
Another, related feature while we're here is this ability to swap out views on a sheet. So you can take a viewport and you get this little drop down and you can just choose a new one. So if I want to put the demo plan on here instead, I guess I can't because that one's already on a sheet, maybe. You can swap it out for a different view instead of having to drag it off and place it back on. And I believe you can preserve how it's placed, either the center of the viewport, which I think was the default, or the origin. And the origin, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Ben was looking into this one. That controls like its position relative to the model. So like the walls will line up in your new view, not just like the center of the viewport's crop box. Is that right?
Yeah. So Ben, can you hear Daniel yet, Ben? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So Daniel asked you a question about, did you look into, he thought maybe you had looked into the view orientation when you're swapping out the view on the sheet and the origin versus I think it was the center, right? Viewport center. Oh, we can't hear Ben now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, there you are.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I muted myself because I was trying to okay, yeah, go ahead. So the orientation, what was the question about that?
Oh, Daniel had asked if he thought you had looked into that a bit more of the the viewport orientation, center versus origin, and what maybe that origin meant when it was placed.
Oh yeah,
on the sheet.
yeah. So I can speak to that slightly. So basically, like if you swap this view for like a basement level or upper level view of this, if you keep the origin, the model coordinates will stay in the same spot, so the view won't shift. But if you keep the center, not the view origin, then it will try to just flex the view and it will move the model if the view is bigger. Let's say you have your upper level is longer, so you want to have that still fit on the sheet. You don't want to keep that same kind of origin point, the model origin, if you will, across on the same, both of the sheets. So you can use either one, the view origin or the center one, depending on how you want to kind of flex on your sheet. If you care about keeping the model in this, like the same wall across all the levels in the same spot, versus I want to keep the view trying to flex around the sheet.
Right. So if you had a set of drawings where the floor plan across different disciplines, you wanted that floor plan to show up in the exact same spot, and so you had to swap that view out for whatever reason, it won't move it to a different area of the sheet. It'll keep it exactly where it was and how your view is formatted.
Yeah.
Right. Having just tried this, I mean, it doesn't work exactly like that if the new view is a different scale, but that makes sense. I mean, how could it, right? Anyway,
Right.
Another
across different disciplines, you wanted that floor plan to show up in the exact same spot. And so, we're getting a little feedback.
Feedback from you, Ben. I think you got to mute yourself. We're having some good audio issues on this one.
Anyway,
I just heard my own voice and it freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
I could listen to Jim's voice all day.
That's right.
So
Thanks,
another
Daniel.
quick one. Moving on from views to the material browser, they added one or two new features in here. One of the cool things is if you are using textures. This was a huge problem when I worked on large collaborative projects with multiple offices. But the actual image file now, they've improved or added support, so you can save this through the desktop connector in BIM 360. So multiple people on different servers and stuff, as long as they're in the same BIM 360 project, can access the same JPEG or PNG, whatever files you need. We used to sometimes set up separate like servers and management systems and folders just for the image files. So to me, that's a huge win.
Yep.
And then another minor thing while we're here is the new duplicate material option. I think it just used to be duplicate, but now there's two options. You can duplicate the materials and assets, or you can just duplicate the material and it'll use the old assets. And this was confusing because before, by default, it always used the old assets. So if you made two different materials and changed something in one of the assets, it would affect both materials. Kind of like if you use SketchUp and forget to make component unique before editing, and then you change them all. Similar thing here. So I don't know, do you guys have any opinions on those material features?
I think that's huge. I always, with the interface, I always got confused with the assets. I think I duplicated the material and the asset, and then it was only duplicating the material, and then you end up screwing up the assets in other places. So
Right.
Yeah, I agree. That one is, it seems like a minor change, but to me, that's a pretty major change, especially working with interiors groups and architecture groups who, rely on that materials library quite a bit. That's been a huge point of confusion for a long time, and I think that's a pretty significant change.
And I'd add, this is not just management for one project, but through BIM 360, you could potentially use your Autodesk account to manage materials for multiple projects in the same spot, which could be nifty. Sometimes those material JPEG libraries get huge, and the files are sometimes pretty big for detailed renderings.
Definitely, for sure. Also, unless there's anything else on the material asset one, just going back to the views, Reed was asking what happens if we swap views with the rotated scope box. I'm assuming it honors whatever the scope box rotation is. I don't know if we got a chance to test or try that yet. But
this model doesn't have scope boxes. I could take a look in a little bit once I get through a few more things and report back. That sounds good.
That sounds
good. It seems like it swaps out the views as the primary purpose, and the secondary is the location. So it's like a way to keep track of location if it works for that swap. But if not,
I'm curious about that as well, and also just the origin. And verifying if that is the model origin or is that an origin of the view, right? Have you guys looked into that a bit, or is that?
We could dive into that more.
Yeah,
that could be handy.
I kind of looked at that a little bit. It seemed from my testing, it's not the origin of the view, because I changed the crop around a bit and tried to flex it, and it still stayed. So it seemed like it's something having to do with the actual model. So
that could be nifty. I'm sure you guys have. I've done it where I draw like 2D lines over the same spot, different views, and try to manually line it up because I need to, and I can't copy paste between sheets or some different views, something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, or guide grids on the sheet using guide grids, and so I mean, I've worked on a lot of projects with multidisciplines, so a lot of times you'd want the same level plan per discipline to be in the exact same spot on the sheet. So I can see how that could be pretty useful.
Okay. Moving on to one or two more things I think are cool. You can now tag groups and link models. If I made a group of bedroom furniture or something here, say I had like, I found this handy for multi-unit models or conference rooms, wherever you need a lot of groups. But one of the flaws of this, I think, is if you try to tag it out the box, the new Revit templates don't come with a model group tag. So you have to make one.
That's right.
And they don't come with a model group tag in the model. And they also don't have a template for it. So I had to make a generic tag and then actually update the family type of that tag. So you could do this, and then you could make your own template. But there's a model group tag. And there's also, while we're here, there's a Revit link one. I think I'll only make one. What do they call it? Link, RVT link. So if you made it this type, you could tag Revit links. If you make a group one, you could tag groups. So I'm just going to add a quick label. So with a group, get the mark. The type name, I believe, is the name of the group. Family 3. So now, see, I got my little tag in there. And my group has no mark. If I were to make, a few bedrooms and assign one of them a mark, you'd see it. This is bedroom number 12. Oh, there it is. Same workflow for linked models. You guys see any other uses for that? Large, yeah.
Yeah, I think there was the whole kind of workflows with units and multifamily where you have like a group versus a link. And now that you could tag them individually, like the tags could actually stay on the link side. I think we used to kind of try to put some annotations inside the link and kind of, because we do have annotations from the link, like dimensions and whatnot, but you can't have that automatic tagging. You probably do a dumb thing for it and just kind of, but now you could do it parametrically like you could have with every other thing in Revit, which is, I think, amazing. It enables more workflows for both of those groups versus links setups.
Yeah, and me and Jim have working on a project right now that's a whole bunch of units, so I might utilize this there with a whole bunch of groups and actually a whole bunch of linked models with a lot of instances. Okay, and then changing gears a little bit, the one last thing I want to mention, because I think this is huge, if you do a lot of MEP modeling, I'm going to go ahead and make some mechanical equipment. You can now rehost connectors. So if you were familiar with, I just made a family with an extrusion here. If you had to make any MEP equipment that connected to actual systems, when you add a connector by default, duct connector, it appears on the center of a face, always. And it used to be stuck there. You'd have to delete it or copy the properties over to a new one where you wanted it and delete the old one. But now you get this nice pick new host. And you can just pick a different surface and it'll move with all the same properties. So for me, I think that's huge. I don't know if anybody else out there does a lot of mechanical or electrical family modeling, but if you do, or plumbing, you might appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Does it still snap to the center of the face?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you make a connector by default, it's always the very center. So usually you'll make a surface or a little extrusion or whatever where the pipe or plug or duct connector actually model like the real shape you want it to be.
Right.
Instead of just, a box like I did. I don't know, some people though, for diagrammatic ones, it's just a cylinder with a few connectors. Because that's all you need at certain stages.
Right. So if you're doing a pipe connector, you could model that, extrusion of a cylindrical extrusion from the face of that object, and then have your connector on the end of that.
Yeah, make a little pipe shape one for sure. One thing they didn't add, which would be nice, is visibility or optional connectors and families. You still need to make different family instances for different connector arrangements or positions. So maybe soon.
Yep.
I don't know, those are the few of the features I liked.
These are
I
good,
don't know if
Daniel.
any of you guys or anyone listening is also excited about those, as excited as me.
Yeah, be good. As we're going through, if people want to comment, if they like that feature, they don't like that feature, people are commenting in the chat some items, their opinions on things, and maybe what your favorite feature is as we're kind of going through. I think that would be awesome. So cool. Sweet. I think next, Jim, you are up. Is that right?
I think that is right.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got cooking over there, boss.
Okay. Let me try
thanks,
to
Daniel.
share my screen.
Yeah.
Make sure that works.
Sweet.
Okay. Can you see Revit?
We see Revit. We're giving MEP some love. People always asking these things. What about MEP? What about structure? So you guys are giving MEP some love. I like it.
Not to interrupt, but there were a whole bunch of rebar updates and some other, I guess Jim will touch on the mechanical system up. There's a lot of stuff if you dig into it, if you're really into this mechanical or structural modeling.
That's right.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, there are a whole list of MEP updates. And full disclosure, I haven't had a chance to dive into all of them yet, but I'll just show a couple of them. Because if anyone, I don't know if anyone online is familiar with, MEP in general. I know we work with a lot of architecture firms and interiors and those type of firms. But if you've done any piping in Revit, and then if you've done any fabrication piping in Revit, you know that the two are completely different almost. It's like fabrication piping, you're building the piping, the pipe network from the fitting, right? You actually manually placing the fittings sometimes. It's been a little less user friendly compared to, you know, the actual pipe, design pipe in Revit, which, you know, is just very easy and streamlined and fills in a lot of the gaps for you. It always feels like the MEP fabrication piping tries to do that, but it's not quite as easy as just what I did here with, you know, modeling a pipe, and it fills in all the gaps for you. So any kind of improvements to MEP fabrication piping, in my opinion, are a big deal, especially since I'm working on a project right now that's utilizing this quite a bit, and Daniel is as well. And I know that Daniel kind of feels my pain there, and could probably comment on this. So this might not seem like a big one, but if you look at, so this is Revit 2022, just grabbing this pipe fitting, you have the option to rotate it, which is great, but there's no flip. And I can't tell you how many times, you know, if you're working with a pipe flow, or you try to place this fitting and it shows up going the wrong direction. Well, they did add in 2023, now you can select it, and it, you know, just like doors or so many other things in Revit now, you've got this flip button here, which again doesn't seem like much, but in my opinion, it's going to help make my life quite a bit easier going forward, especially on this project I'm working on now. So that was a good one. Yeah, any comments on that? Anybody online? I know we're just monitoring the chat, but if anybody has any experience with piping, we'd love to hear from you and see if you found any more improvements with the MEP fabrication. I plan on diving into that more, especially since I am working on that project currently. There are a series of just other MEP improvements. One of them that I'll mention here, I'll just switch back to 2022. And I just have just an example of some ductwork and some diffusers modeled here. And so you can see in my system browser, all of those are showing up as supply diffusers currently. Well, up until now, if you were to demo a portion of your HVAC, whoops, let me try that again. So if I were to demolish these two branches, and it's demolished in new construction, you can see I get this error. Elements need to be disconnected. So it's actually disconnecting those from the system. So I can disconnect it, and then they disappear from my system browser. So I know that that's been a pain point for HVAC designers in the past, and just trying to, you know, keep those connected. Well, 2023, this is pretty nice. If you do the same thing, and I demolish this, say created existing, demolish new construction, you can see that it still shows it. I mean, obviously based on our visibility settings, but it shows it as demolished, but it also maintains that system. So I think that's going to be helpful for our HVAC friends in the industry.
Agreed. I like it.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yep.
I think anybody who really has to dive into this modeling will appreciate all these little things, time savers.
Absolutely.
Frustration savers.
Yes, all the frustration savers are huge. Yeah. So again, there's a whole series of HVAC or MEP improvements, and I think we're gonna, you know, we had talked about doing a follow-up because this is kind of an unboxing, first impressions. But I think as we dive more into these, I think maybe, I don't know, Bill, you can speak to this a bit, but we had talked about maybe doing a follow-up, you know, a few weeks later. We've been using 2023. How's it, you know, holding up? What are we finding? And less of the, you know, first impressions. So I think this would be a good topic for that.
Agreed. Sweet.
Cool. All right. So that's what I wanted to touch on for MEP. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, which I thought was pretty nice, is the ability to add filled regions now in families. So if I start,
Oh yeah,
I'll just do a furniture family. This is in 2023.
And this is a non-MEP specific one, right, Jim? This
Yes.
applies to all trades?
Correct. Yeah. So this is not MEP specific. I'm just shifting gears a bit here. I'll go back to 2022 first and just start a furniture family. Okay, and so then under annotate, I've got masking region. I've got that option there. But here in 23, if I go to annotate, now I have the option for filled region, which is nice. So if I place a filled region here, I can edit type on that filled region. Right now it's just filled region 1. I can choose my fill pattern here, you know, and it pulls in some of the default fill regions patterns. But I can also, of course, associate a family parameter to it. And let's do that.
And I think what's cool about it too is you can make it an instance parameter, and that was not possible before.
Yeah, so I'll do that. I'll make it an instance parameter. Okay. And whoops. Let me finish that. And I'm going to load that into my project. So I did have that in here before. Let's find that thing. Furniture, family 3. There we go. There we go. So now I select that. I have the ability now to, since it's an instance parameter, I can come to properties and I can swap that pattern out with whatever I have as a filled region in my project. So I think that's a pretty nice feature. What do you guys think? What are some applications for that, or what do you guys think of that feature?
Well, I think that those are two features. So one of them is like kind of being able to have filled regions inside families, which is really great. It always kind of bothered me that like I couldn't. It's so similar to have that, you know, the whiteout piece basically. And then this is just, it's the same thing, but it has the pattern on there. So it's really great that a lot of people would just load another family inside of that family, like a generic annotation family inside that to kind of hack that. And it, you know, it's kind of this kind of workflow. But now you don't have to. And the second feature is really like, you don't have to have a field region for every single pattern. You can make the field region pattern parameter to be an instance thing, and I could change that and have like 3 types that I could use if I wanted to. And the pattern is a variable, which is more similar to how other parameters work, where you could be an instance or a type-based parameter. So you can have both still, but now you have the dynamic of like, you know, I could have 100 patterns if I want to for one type, and I could even programmatically perhaps even arrange those if I wanted to. So it enables a lot more workflows.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point about, you know, you can have that instance parameter. You don't have to have so many types. Yeah, I can see that being pretty useful.
Yep. Sweet.
Cool.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. I might share my screen now if that's all right. Continue commenting on if you guys think these are good features or what your thoughts are on them. Those are good. Daniel's doing a good job monitoring the chat there. Some comments. So thanks, Daniel, for that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's all right. And okay. So I'm going to just talk briefly on 3 features real quick. The ones that I think, most excited about. The first one, which threw me off, actually, full disclosure. So what I did is I heard there was this new solar kind of animation study that you could do. And I was like, great, like, let's do it. And I click here and the solar study was grayed out and I couldn't figure it out of why we couldn't do it. Well, you have to turn on shadows and then it becomes available. So if you guys are looking for that study, you can't find it. That is how you can get to that. You can also turn on your sun path like you normally do. And you can choose, you know, whether what kind of time period you want. And in here, you could start to look at the animation piece of it, which I am noticing is actually not showing. Let me see.
Bill, sorry to interrupt. I think I'm just looking at the stream. I think the resolution is a bit lower on your screen share. I don't know if we could share and unshare, or unshare and reshare maybe.
Yeah.
It seems like it's.
Is that helpful at
all?
Maybe.
Still seems a bit pixelated.
Okay.
We'll probably go through it.
We'll go through it just a sec.
Okay. I don't know if there's another setting you could toggle on there.
Probably children using the internet is what I'm guessing. The challenges of working from home. You tell everyone you're going to do this live stream and, You know,
Right.
Someone's watching two Netflix.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
probably watching Netflix and playing Fortnite and all of that fun stuff. So hopefully this works here. But
Maybe
okay,
we jump into
so
maybe they're doing a live stream. We could
they
just
probably
start
are,
watching.
and it's probably way more interesting. So maybe we should just do that. So, all right, focus. All right, so in here, you're able now to have this kind of animation, and the team was asking, as it relates to live. I don't know if this is starting to clear up here, but in short, the preview, it is not. It's actually better today than it was yesterday. But I was looking, and you're able to kind of animate the solar study here, and you can kind of see where those shadows are laying as it relates to that shadow study. So this is like really common. We work with a lot of people in the state of Colorado, and you have to do these solar studies. You have to do where it's at 10, where it's at 12, and where it's at 2. And we've built out these families and schedules that kind of show this. You can now actually start to inform that within the solar study and show, live animation or include that as part of that process. So it just makes it a little more streamlined. And or if you're doing an animation with a client, I think that's something that could be helpful as well. And I'm just going to keep going if that's all right, just because, Ben, you have a lot of stuff to get through, and I want to make sure I'm actually really excited about your items. So I'm going to try to be really quick with my time here. Okay. The next one is cuttable families. And so in here, we have this desk family, and we were limited basically on what Autodesk said you could and could not cut. And within this, now we can click on the family and say edit. And if I go to the properties of this, you can say enable cutting in views right here in the properties. And so if I check that, I'll load that back into my project and overwrite that. And you'll see now the family updates. So I can actually cut through that. And there's some different categories that are inclusive of that you're able to do that now, which includes furniture, casework, etc. I think specialty equipment and plumbing fixtures are some others. Some of those they gave you ability to in the past. Basically, it is either an all or nothing, but now you can enable cutting views on those for those families. So that was a really nice feature. And then lastly, probably this is my favorite feature, I would say, is the ability to tie filters to level 1 of base constraint for walls. And they have a few additional parameters in here as well, but specifically this one. And I'll tell you why, is because we work with a lot of different general contractors and they do a lot of pour diagrams. And so having the ability now to be able to say as a diagrammatic solution and a color coding, which a lot of them do, and I'd be curious to hear if there's any contractors listening, if this feature speaks to you at all. And so that is one thing, is being able to filter based on level and see that. The other piece of this, which was an application, is to be able to see elements at level. So to QA/QC your model, right? And so everybody knows, like, if you're just looking at a wall or a 3D view, you just get the materials or whatever in there without knowing what the level the object is hosted to. And so now what you can, just to further fill that out here. So I've also done where level 1, 2 windows, have a certain color associated to them. I used to do this actually with Dynamo, and I don't know, we're going to do a Dynamo session on the new UI. I think really Dynamo stole the show this year. There's so many new awesome features, which we're going to do a follow-up. But I used to do this workflow where we would get all elements at level and then filter Boolean mask that and then see what elements are on that level. This is another application of that workflow for filters specifically for categories. So this is probably one of my favorite features in how they've expanded this one.
Yeah, I would add like catching, walls drawn in plan, but actually hosted to the wrong level. Or maybe someone was aligning things in 3D. So it's in the right spot, but it's not hosted correctly. So then when the corresponding level changes, the wall or element that's supposed to move with it doesn't. This is a great way to catch some of this stuff before it, accidentally shows up on a printed CD set or something.
Yep, definitely. Those are some good examples, Daniel. And the last one I was just going to mention very, very quickly was just the displaced views. They also, I believe, added the ability for further tagging of these elements. So if you're going to do, like a tag all and window tags, I believe they've improved the ability on this side of it as well as part of these displaced views. So that's another cool little feature. So just mention that real quick.
Yeah, and to tag on to that,
Pun intended.
you also could displace views that are 2D views. So 2D views are your 3D model, section views, elevations. So before you couldn't displace those things, but now you could diagrammatically kind of expand, you know, a floor plan or something like that if you wanted to pull things away. And it's just for that view alone, which is kind of cool too.
That is cool, Ben. Thanks for mentioning that. That's great. Cool. All right. And I think Ben's features are like the ones I'm most excited about. So I wanted to shut up and let Ben show what he has going on. So Ben,
Yeah,
I don't know, do you want to?
for sure. Yeah, I'll share my screen and I'll let's see. I could get to some of the things that I kind of found interesting. And again, obviously, I have my own kind of opinions on certain things. So I gravitate towards some features more than others. Okay, so I think looking at cutting things, I think cuttable objects, I think I'll kind of continue that. And they've also expanded that for imports. Like if you imported something into your 3D model, and I just ran a test with importing. Let's see, actually, which one do I want to go to? Yeah, so importing a SketchUp model. So I just brought in, this is kind of actual SketchUp import. And if I want to, I could turn this on, and this wasn't a feature before, where you can actually cut, this is a section cut essentially. You could turn that on and it section cuts those objects in a section drawing.
Ben, is that your car?
That's the one I got from the warehouse.
Oh, I was gonna say.
It's not my car. I wish. No, I got a Prius, and then the one I drive is a 2001 Avalon. It's a good, but it's a really good. It's an old one, but it's a good one. Very sustainable and has not broken down on me. So, anyways, back to this. Basically, the next part of this is I tested they've improved the importer for meshes, which I thought was really cool. But I did find some limitations. So it seemed like mostly you have to use the OBJ importer. I was not able to replicate it with DWGs, DXFs, or SketchUp imports. But if you do use the OBJ importer, you could get a really nice kind of smoothened mesh with the without the mesh lines in there, which looks really good actually. Like it looks a lot better than kind of what they used to offer, which is kind of this. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with all the other importers. Like it doesn't work with the DWG or DXF or SketchUp importer. So like we've built something like this using our product basically to do that using DXF. So you could kind of still be able to kind of have that hidden line mode for displaying in models if you wanted to show that. But if you want to use the OBJ importer, it kind of gives you this aesthetic, which I think is really good. I don't know if there's any API access to that. It would be nice if they had that, because then more tools could actually use this system to display objects. But I think it's just their kind of native object style importer. So I thought that was really cool and neat. The other features I wanted to go over is the measuring in 3D. So I'll just pull up I'm going to pull up a quick model I put on here.
Oh, right. So I have a shortcut set to the measuring tool. I think it's TM for tape measure. And even in all the old versions, I'll always in a 3D view press it, and like I get that little annoying sound that's like, can't do that.
Oh, that sound is the worst.
But like for years I've been doing that, and I'll do it like 5 times in a row until I remember. Oh, right. Can't do that.
So
but now
this will lend itself to the other feature with a work plane. But essentially, what I had to do before is, maybe I could demo that, is I would essentially go into, I would always pick a plane. So let's see if I go to 3D view here. If I wanted to kind of get a fascia dimension on this, I'd have to make sure that I pick a plane. So I would have to click set, pick plane, and click, let's say, this one. I don't know if I actually picked the right one. So I'll do this again. Maybe I'll pick this one. And now I could dimension on it, or just run the dimension measure tool basically on that. Actually, no, I can't even do it with this one. So actually what I used to do, I would just kind of draw a line, because the line gives you the dimension automatically also. So I'm like, that's good enough for me. But I'd have to be on that plane basically to do it.
Right.
With the new feature, you could just click it, and you could even go across planes, like just 2 arbitrary points, which is really cool. So you could just kind of go ahead and just dimension anything you want to in any kind of
Hey,
angle.
Ben,
Yeah.
I just thought of this. Does that like witness dimension there have that button to turn it into a permanent dimension after you draw it? You know, like in plans sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't.
So you
Temporary.
could like, if you find a measurement you want to keep, you could save it and then go make more.
Maybe you have
Yeah,
to
it's not the
lock the
temporary
3D
dimension
view.
one. Yeah, sorry, Jim.
Oh, maybe if you lock the 3D view, does it open up that option to do that?
Just a
Well, you
thought.
could do dimensioning in 3D views now too. So I don't think that would be a necessary thing. But let's say, okay, let's just say test. So I think that's more for the temporary dimensions,
Mhm.
Yeah.
not this one. This is kind of like the measure tool that gives you kind of like that temporary, that other, I guess, alternate way of looking at it. It's kind of a different element that's kind of overlaid on top there. So
Okay.
I think you're thinking about like if I click this, you get these other temporary dimensions that have these kind of grab bar or
Yeah.
little anchor
And
points.
Mhm.
like, you know, in a plan sometimes or you have an option to click on those and turn them into permanent dimensions.
Right. So if I click
Yeah.
on this, I could click on this, and there's a little icon
Yeah,
for
that
permanent
button.
dimension. So if I click that, then it becomes
Okay.
a dimension. Yeah. Yeah, good question. It seems like
Curious.
it doesn't do that.
2024.
There you go. So let me go back to, actually I'm on the 3D view, but I locked it. So here's like a non-3D view. Let me unlock that real quick. So I've kind of already kind of showed that in the Revit 2022 version, but now they've also added a set plane over here, pick plane. So you don't have to click set plane and then pick plane. You could just do that with all in one button, which is really cool. So if I click this, I could just kind of click my plane, and then it will update to that. Looks like I do that. I don't know why it's for some reason it's showing right here, but that's really nifty because you could really, like we've done a bunch of applications that we've developed in the past where we would add that button ourselves in the tool just because it's such a convenient tool because you can shortcut it. And if you have that, and right now they have it set up as a PK, so if you run that shortcut, it automatically kind of runs that. But it just lets you do things and model things in kind of 3D without having to have all those extra clicks. And I think one thing that I would like to see for this feature, which I kind of perhaps uh, because we've done this so much with our modeling applications, is kind of automatically setting that. So if I could demo that real quick, and maybe this is kind of a feedback for the Autodesk team, but if you were able to kind of have it actively switch, that would be, I think, kind of a next level. And we've kind of hacked it to do this for our kind of workflows. But then you can kind of continue drawing as you want to across all your elevations without having to worry about clicking planes and like setting work planes. It's just kind of something that you don't have to do. It's just kind of automatically done for you. I would love to see this also natively supported in Revit because that would be really awesome to not have to kind of have a workaround for that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Maybe in the absence, a quick ask, Ben, I don't know if it's possible to build a little widget maybe for the community. Maybe we could actually implement that in the absence of it being available, having some kind of real-time work plane selector. If they don't have that in the moment, could be cool. But
Yeah, but still, like the set work plane, I think is a very good improvement and it's very useful. I know it seems like a very simple feature, but I would definitely use that.
yeah, I like it.
Cool. The other things I wanted to go over is schedules. So basically, one really cool feature that I like is that right now you could actually have schedules filtered by sheet. So you don't have to. I think in the past, what I've had to do in the past is we'd have to create like different schedules for different sheets or different types. So I would have like, okay, this is my schedules for this kind of category, and I'll put this little parameter in here, and you should put this schedule on all your A200 sheets, or put the schedule on your A500 sheets, because it's just those. But that schedule will be, the same schedule across all the different sheets. Now you could have a filter where it just, so I'll just do it to the store schedule here, that it just updates the same schedule. Basically, you make it once, but it just updates with the elements that are on the sheet, which is really cool. So if I go into this properties here, there's a new, if I go to filter, there's a new filter by sheet setting. And the schedule will stay the same in this view because it's the same schedule. But if you place it on the sheet now, depending on what sheet it's on, it's kind of responsive to that sheet. So this sheet has this view here. If I delete this view, it has no view, so the schedule is reactive to that, and it's not displaying any of those elements, which is really cool. Or if I change this view to like a different phase, for example, that would also kind of change that. One cool way, one workflow that this would have come in handy in the past for me is using an alternate system. Instead of using keynotes, you could use like note blocks or with generic annotations. So I have some of them here. And what you could do is, have this schedule, the note block schedule, behave like the keynote schedule. So if I remove or add, if I remove this view, then my note blocks disappear. So my note block could be a really long schedule of all my generic annotations. And then as I am adding them and putting them on the views, they're responsive to that view. So that's a really cool workflow for that. Yeah, you had a comment? Yeah, so this one could have come in handy like 2018 a lot. I think would be really useful.
Yeah, I think that's great. I just had the thought of, we could, now that we can tag model groups, we could have a units plan and have a schedule that's filtered by sheets and only show the units which are placed on the sheet, something like that, just kind of tying some of these new features in together.
Yeah, definitely.
Model groups.
Yep, that'd be very useful. Cool. I think those are all the items that I was going to go over.
Yeah, I was going to say, or maybe this is Bill's place, but I was going to ask you guys what you think just overall of the new release. First impressions, just the general, feature set. Like, we haven't demoed a lot. There's a lot more than we could fit in an hour, but I think most of us have looked at most of them.
Yeah, I think overall it's,
you go ahead, Ben. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think overall, like, I think I've seen some people kind of criticize this release, and I'm kind of neutral to a certain degree, because I've seen a lot of the kind of other kind of feedback has been I think around like the architectural elements, but there's a lot of stability things and a lot of other things that if you look at the release notes, a lot of ground covered, in other domains. So like even the MEP stuff and the things that you've shown, the rebar things. So yeah, I think I'm kind of happy about it to a certain degree, but I do think that Revit 2022, the previous one, had a lot more features. Like that one was a much more groundbreaking set of features that were delivered.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was just going to kind of piggyback on Ben's comment there. When you look at the Autodesk website, there's a whole list of just bug improvements and performance improvements for, I don't know, selecting multiple items, and the process improvement of how fast the software responds. I would agree. Maybe it's not as many new features, but just a good list of improvements that are kind of behind the scenes, I think.
Yeah, I'm with Jim and Ben, same boat. Like, nothing in this release seems groundbreaking. No huge changes or features. Lots of minor improvements. A lot of like stability and bug fixes. If you look at not new features, but what are they called? And not enhancements. Anyway, they fixed a lot of little things. And their blog post, I haven't looked into it, but it says they took a lot of these small improvements from the the Revit user suggestion board, where people can just post ideas and they get upvoted. So that is kind of nice that you get to feel like Autodesk is listening a lot more. And finally, I was going to comment on what someone in the YouTube chat said, that the icon is nice because I have like five versions of Revit installed, and the previous 5 all have the exact same R, but this new 6th one has looks like a keyboard key that's blue with an R on it. So now I'm never going to accidentally open the wrong one when I'm trying to open 2023. That's a big plus.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yep.
Do you guys think too, like, I know this is all speculation, but then they also released like a sub new version, right? And if like when we were talking about like bugs and crashing, they'll go through and identify those bugs and fix those. But then they'll also have a new series of features that they always seem to release as well. So I don't know, speculation. Do you guys think that maybe there'll be some heavier hitters in that one or not?
I hope so. I think you're right, Bill, that a lot of times we don't expect with like the 23.1 a lot of bug fixes from the initial release, but also sometimes I think they have features that just didn't quite make it for the 23 or the regular release deadline, but then sometimes they're really cool. I'm trying to remember what some are from previous years, but I can't.
Yeah. Again, I know this. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was just gonna say, like, we do a bunch of software dev ourselves, and we kind of are a bit in tune with that process where sometimes, some teams have two teams at the same time that have, the dev, and then you have like the QA QC, and you have all that. But it does seem like Revit does kind of use a method where it's a bit more like a TikTok method, where they kind of have stability, then feature heavy, then that might introduce instability. Although I'm sure they have like a lot of unit tests and integration tests that automate a lot of that checking, but there's always something that comes up. So it does seem that it's kind of like this wavering thing where it's like, okay, feature heavy, kind of stability heavy improvements. Because I've seen, like, even like you guys have mentioned, and Jim, you said, like, there's a lot of speed improvements. And what that does is just kind of paves the way to like do things that are more ambitious. Like, okay, now we could do some more crazy geometrical things. Now we could do more computations in the background. So we could have this more, lofty feature delivered because we are 2x faster with our engine. Like, those kind of moves does lend the platform to actually perform for kind of, it creates a footprint or a basis for building on top of.
It's a good comment. I think, again, we didn't touch on Dynamo, but I'd like to do a follow-up here in the next week or two on the Dynamo and GD tools, because I actually, again, I feel like the Revit version is good. Like, there's some nice little fixes and some performance in there. I really do feel like Dynamo stole the show this year. So just to tease that out a little bit, I think it would be great. They got some new things for grouping. There's a completely new user interface. And so look for that coming out very, very soon. We'll follow up and do a part 2 on that, which I'm very, very excited about.
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
I was also going to add that I think along with Dynamo, they released a couple updates for the Revit API.
Yes.
As well as Formit 2023 has some big new things. So, and a lot of those are sort of tied together in the back. Maybe more energy was focused on those this year. Who knows? But those would be real interesting to cover. Or even if we don't, it's worth looking into if you use any of those tools.
I'm definitely excited about the API stuff. Like, they've exposed things like you mentioned the texture path from the cloud. They've exposed that so you can actually make your own solution for that cloud-based, which lends itself to like you'll be able to build applications that will let you, host it centrally, so you don't have to kind of do that work around that you mentioned earlier. You also have like API for, like, I don't know if the people that are in the audience, but like when you select something in Revit, for example, we'd have to hack that to be able to know that in the API that's the user selected something different. So kind of these interactive things that you could do with applications is now exposed. That is really useful to like just be able to build better add-ins. And it's really cool that Autodesk has always had that kind of openness to their API to be able to actually like allow developers to build on top of the platform. Because if you didn't have that API, we wouldn't have Dynamo, we wouldn't have all these plugins and all these tools that we could kind of interop with. So it's really cool that there's a bunch of different new APIs that are being exposed for. If you look at the release notes, and again, that really, like you said, Daniel, ties so nicely into Dynamo because if it's an open API, you can make a Dynamo node for it, and then Dynamo's new and just everything.
Yeah, we didn't want to geek out too hard, but there were a couple API features that got me really excited. And like new API exposures also mean new features in Dynamo because Dynamo accesses Revit through this API mostly. So anybody who's just a Dynamo power user might be excited about these too.
Definitely. Yeah. The one thing I'd add, just as a shameless plug, is if you guys are interested in add-ins, like we love talking about Revit. We're all past BIM managers in a past life. Always, like I said, it's like Christmas on with the new feature coming out. For me, I'm always like, I'm excited to get in there and try it out. But if there's anything that you're like, man, like Ben was alluding to, like the work plane thing, it'd be sweet if you could just take this the extra mile, or if there was some other kind of function or feature, that is our jam. Like we build out quite a bit of interoperability and automation tools. And so if there's something you guys want us to check out, whether it be a Dynamo script or a Revit add-in or a standalone web app or whatever, we're super excited to geek out about some of that with you guys, and bring some of those ideas into fruition for you. So I just wanted to throw that out there if anyone was interested. So because a lot of the API stuff is awesome, and the ability to access some of that is huge. Every year, it means new features, new functions that you can now write that you couldn't do before. Last year, we built out the ceiling generation tool, which we didn't have access to the ceiling Revit API before for generation. So we built out that add-in. By we, I mean Daniel. Daniel crushed that out. And thanks for doing that, Daniel.
Team effort.
Team effort. I like it.
Team effort.
So, yeah, anyway, so we're always excited about that piece of it and helping out, the community any way we can. So sweet. Sure. So as part of that, I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to ask the group favorite feature out of all the lists. If you guys throw it in the chat, we'd like to know what your guys' favorite feature was out of all the lists. But I'm going to put everyone on the spot. And I'm going to ask Jim first. Jim, what was your favorite 2023 feature this year that you saw?
Oh man, I think the schedule filter by sheets is going to be pretty powerful. I think that's pretty great because it's going to behave similar to keynotes now. And I always thought that was a great feature. I can think of 100 applications for that. And so first impression, I was pretty excited about that one.
Sweet. Ben?
That probably would have been also my first, but if I were to pick one outside of that, maybe the measure in 3D.
Okay.
Because I do that. It's such a natural thing that I always, when you're working in 3D, I prefer to work in 3D a lot. Just being able to do that and just kind of get quick grabs here and there and not have to leave that and set three things, that annoyance really kind of lends itself to just being more fluid with your work. My runner-up would have been probably the mesh thing, but would have been nice if it actually worked with everything. Like if it actually worked with DXF, if it actually worked with SketchUp and all that, because that would have really made that feature lend itself to interoperability, not just one the OBJ importer that is locked in. You don't have access to API-wise to it.
I like it. Daniel?
Yeah, Ben, if only there was other tools that could...
I know, right?
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been working on one. But I think my favorite, I got to go with the rehosting connectors. For anyone who's built any mechanical or electrical or plumbing family, that saves so much annoyance and time. But also the schedule conditional formatting. We didn't talk about it, but it's much easier to color your schedules now based on different things.
That's right.
So look into that one.
Yeah. And I think another one we didn't touch on either was the print set order. So I think that was probably a runner-up. I think I'm with you guys. I like the schedule one, the filter by sheet. I think that was great. But I also liked, as a runner-up, was probably the print by set in a certain order. That's mine.
Yeah.
So we didn't even mention that. Minor
thing, but somewhere in there they mentioned the PDF printing speed is supposed to have improved like 40%, which is pretty huge because printing is not very fast.
Yeah.
So
they also added
Sorry, good. That's a 3-hour set sometimes. Print it in an hour and a half. That's a big deal.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Another small one. I think they added the export PDF to the quick access toolbar. I think that was on the list.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. I missed that one.
By default.
Yeah. Jim, look at you with your attention to detail.
Right.
But now it's there.
There it is.
Nice. And it's like the only one that's really red on the whole ribbon.
Yeah.
Very cool. Sweet. Awesome. Well, we are at time. Other people concurred with you, Daniel, on the rehost connection piece of it. So Reed is in your camp on that one. We should add a point system, I think. But cool. Thanks for everybody for sitting in on the Revit 2023. This is kind of like our unboxing and first impressions on the tool. Hopefully you guys found it useful. Jim, Ben, Daniel, thanks so much for demoing. You guys are awesome, crushing it out. And we'll catch everybody on the flip side next stream. We'll see you guys.
See you, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.